What is happening, people? It is Brian, Alsruhe, NEVERsate.com, and for today's video, I want to tell you guys a story about the worst lifting injury that I've ever seen inside of competition, and while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to be recreating said event for your viewing pleasure. So basic idea here is that I will tell you the story here from the abyss, and then I will be going to the gym later and actually recreating this, and hopefully it will turn out fairly well. So you can probably expect a certain amount of jumping back and forth, but just so it's not so confusing for you guys, what the actual event was, where the injury occurred, was a max effort axial deadlift. It's still one of my favorite events to this day. Each athlete got 20 minutes to work up as heavy as they possibly could. Now, the way that it was set up was they had 4 lifting platforms all in a square, so you were slammed right up next to each other, and in the middle of those lifting platforms, there was a big stack of weights. Now, that big stack of weights to be shared, everyone could just grab from it as they needed, but they were gonna say go with a timer, and in 20 minutes, you had to load your own barbell, but you had to get as heavy as possible for a 1 rep maximum axial deadlift, no straps, no suits, none of that stuff, just your bare hands, and see where you could go. So that is setting the stage. That is what you're gonna see me jumping in here. Now, I am not using an Axial for today just because I maxed out with an Axial about 2 weeks ago. So I kind of know where I'm there, but I do not know with a barbell. So in 20 minutes, we're gonna find out. So there I was. So this actually happened at my very first Strongman competition ever, which was kind of traumatic. If you guys have been part of Strongman for any amount of time, you'll know that virtually at every single competition, something kind of happens. Someone might kind of tweak their back. Some people might actually get for real injured. You'll see a torn bicep, hurt shoulders, all kinds of terrible things go on during Strongman competition. However, I did not know that at the time. Also realized that I had no intentions of being a strongman at the time. I was very into mixed martial arts, and I was training, fighting, doing all kind of cool things like that. However, I had a really good friend in Mike Jenkins, and if you recognize that name, you will know that he is Strongman royalty. Anyway, we went to high school together, we trained together, we were personal trainers at the same gym, and all the time working together, he always said, you need to do a Strongman competition, and I always placated him saying, yeah, I will someday, blah, 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 whatever. Anyway, as time went on, Mike ended up dying on Thanksgiving morning a couple years ago, and I never got the chance to fulfill my promise to him to actually do a Strongman competition. So at his funeral, sitting there in the pews with everybody else, tears rolling down my face, I made the decision that I would hold up my promise to my friend and I would do a strongman show. So signed up for that competition and kind of believed that it would never actually happen. When it did show up, it was the week before and I still had never touched a strongman implement. I did not sign up for novice class. I did not go try to cut a bunch of weight to make a easier weight class. I literally just said, I'm going to sign up, I'm going to go, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go full blast. I'm not doing novice, I'm not doing anything like that. Anyway, as things tend to happen, the Strongman show came up a lot faster than expected, so the week prior to the competition, I went down to Mike Jenkins' old gym where his wife was a CrossFit trainer, and she showed me a couple things to do with Strongman implements. She showed me how to hold farmer's handles, she showed me how to pick up a stone, just very basic stuff, but it wasn't like super in-depth strongman type of instruction. It was just kind of like, hey, this is what I see my husband Mike doing. This, if you're gonna compete, see what happens. I don't know. And that went well. So a week passed and there I was at my very first strongman competition in West Virginia as the oldest man in the open class at 34 years old. And I was doing things like pull-ups and double unders with jump ropes because again, I was back into mixed martial arts really hardcore at that time. I didn't know what I was doing for strongman, but even despite all of that, I had been lifting and I was pretty strong. So I did really well on my first 3 events. And I think I was tied for like first or second place around that area at that time. Now, as I explained earlier, the 4th event out of the 5 of the day was the max effort axial deadlift. And like I said earlier, it was set up in 4 squares where 4 people were going at the same time. You had to load your own bar, no straps, no suits, anything like that. However, you had 20 minutes to work up to a 1 rep maximum as heavy as you possibly could. Now, I was fortunate enough to be one of the later guys in the class, so I kind of had an idea of where I needed to be, and I know it would need to be in the mid to high 500s, maybe even 600s, to really have some sort of chance here. Now, I remember the first time I touched these implements ever was literally 7 days before where I touched the Axial for the first time ever, and I worked up to around 545 pounds, I believe. Now, that weight had already gone. I did 545. It was competition time. I was kind of amped up. I was either at 565 or 585. And from the gallery of guys who had already gone, there was one individual who yelled over to me and said, Brian, you can stop. And it actually ended up being Dan Caraway. If you were involved in Strongman and West Virginia, look up Dan Caraway. He's an awesome guy, awesome coach, terrific dude. Definitely check him out. However, he was telling me like, hey man, like, you've already won. You don't need to go anymore. However, this is my first competition. I don't know how things are done. So I literally look over and I'm like, your Jedi mind tricks won't work for me. Not today, lady. So my smart brain decided to load the Axial to 605 and I was getting ready to go. However, the guy directly behind me who was getting ready to pull on 545 pounds, I believe his name was Tyler or Travis. I don't know, but if you're watching this or you guys know him, make sure he gets in contact with me. I need to talk to that guy. Anyway, he's behind me. He gets ready to pull on 545. He's pulling, it seemed to be moving completely fine, and then there is this noise. And when I say a noise, it was like an underwater clunk, almost like an explosion, like a gunk, right? It definitely came from his body, but no one actually really knew what it was. He immediately fell on the ground and started going pale, literally like ghost white immediately, like was going into shock pretty quickly, and he had bruises all over his legs. So immediately everything stops the competition. I turn around, I'm right with him. One of my friends is actually a doctor, and she came over, was dealing with him right there. So we're pretty much just trying to keep him calm because we obviously have no idea what went on. I'm thinking that he tore his hamstring because the bruising on like the hamstring area of his leg. And so I'm like, hey man, congratulations. Like, join the club, you tore hamstring, blah, blah. Just trying to make his mind at ease with this. And he told me that those were there before. This was something different. So no one really had a clue what happened. So we ended up picking him up, putting him in a lawn chair very painfully until the ambulance got there and ended up taking him away. Come to find out, when he started pulling on that 545 pounds, what happened was his little pelvis decided to snap. I didn't even know that could happen. Anyway, yeah, his pelvis actually just sheared in half when he was pulling on that deadlift. And the noise that it made was over some loud pumping music at a strongman competition. So people yelling, people cheering, and you still heard the audible clunk. It was absolutely disgusting. Now, what I really want to know from this guy is, were you getting some weird pain beforehand? Did you get in a car accident beforehand? Did someone kick you in the groin super hard beforehand? Because I want to believe that simply pulling on something like 545 pounds cannot shear your pelvis in half. Because if it is, I need to rethink my life choices. Anyway, I never did get that 605. I ended up loading it, and we had to take a little bit of time to deal with everything and kind of get him to the side. And then the restart of the clock, I had cooled down. I did get all amped up for it and pulled on it, got it close off the ground, but could not finish it. So did not end up getting that 605 pound. I did end up winning that event with 565 or 585 or whatever it was. Ended up going on to actually win the entire show just by a very slim margin over the Dan Caraway that I just mentioned before, who was an awesome strongman competitor. We stayed friends ever since, and he is just one of the best guys in the sport. Anyway, guys, I've seen some very horrendous things happen to human beings in my life. However, in a competition, this was absolutely the worst and probably the most detrimental. Tons of hurt shoulders, hurt backs, torn biceps, stuff like that. You see constantly. Knees folded in half, no problem. When someone's pelvis decides to split in two, it does funny things inside my belly. Anyway, I'm not sure if this is the end of the video or the lifting is going really well and I'm gonna kick over to a commentary to finish up. Most likely not. However, little secret time. I have absolutely no idea where I'm gonna end up within this 20 minutes, but I'm hoping it is at 675 or higher. If I got less than that, right now, wherever I am, the other Brian, the Brian in the parallel universe, is really angry right now. If I got somewhere around like 700, I bet I'm having a good day. Come on, buddy. No. So I'm actually gonna find out what's gonna happen in just a few hours. You guys probably already know, but I do thank you guys so much for your patience, for your time, for some of these different type of videos. I'm trying to expand my channel and do different things than just the instructional stuff, because honestly, if you guys search the library, I've covered a lot. So there's a lot of stuff that you could become a very excellent lifter with. So rather than just throwing a lot of the same rehashed stuff, I want to try to do different things on my channel. I will be doing more instructional things. Actually, the next video is going to be a do or do not for the lunge because so many people requested it. So that's gonna be coming up, very instructional. Otherwise, I will catch up with you guys later in the week. Until I do, go out to something amazing, realize, keep working hard, people. Keep your pelvis in one piece. And I'll see you then. Hey, buddy. Hi, buddy. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You're such a big donkey. Had to take off your collar because you're so loud. Had to take off your collar because you're so loud. Oh, yes. You're such a big boy. You were such a big boy. You were such a big boy. Ah! Wow.